Hey there, my name is Joaquin Milara, and I'm the host of the AI Digest podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about orchestrating AI agents from concept to implementation. And with us today is Jesse Anglin. Jesse, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's awesome to be on the show. Enjoyed our pre-show conversation that none of your listeners will ever be able to. They'll never be able to get. It's all the secret sauce.
Sorry, folks. You're gonna have to tune in to get it all over again, and even we won't be able to capture all the magic. But
Yeah.
Jesse, you've been doing a very intensive, um, focused development of agents over the last 3 years. We were talking about this, and you have some very impressive statistics and some of the outcomes that you've delivered for your clients. To make this information accessible, I would really like to begin from the beginning of conceptually what is an agent and how are these things first making a difference today, not in some imagination and some cookie guy's dream, or and then I'd like to understand your perspective and how this is going to reshape the economy, because we mentioned the industrial revolution in the mechanical sense, but now that we're in the age of information and knowledge workers, there's another industrial revolution that is soon to be kind of exploding in the scene. So,
Sweet. Well, dude, let me do this so that people don't have to hear a boring introduction. I'm gonna tell the story of kind of how I got into agents because it I think will help people understand like the evolution of my thinking and why I do what I do, also why I'm passionate about what I'm passionate about, and then hopefully let them know that I at least kind of know what I'm talking about. But so I started in the entrepreneurial space with a company called Rapid Innovation that I started. That was just a software development company. We noticed there was no decentralized focused developers that were building out smart contracts on blockchains, and so we started a company to do that, and that company grew and grew and grew. And 3 years ago tomorrow, um, I was sitting in a place where I had 370 employees that were working for me. It was chaos every day. I had tons and tons of clients that we were building stuff for, and it was just madness, from onboarding to production to fulfillment to all of it. It was just madness, right? And it's the normal madness of running a company. Anybody listening to this who owns a company with a lot of people and a lot of clients, they understand immediately. They're like, yep, I know the madness. Like, I deal with it. And you try to build your processes and all your things to make that happen. Well, I had this guy, really, really smart kid, who was on my client onboarding team. And so his job was to, after a sales guy sold somebody on the idea that we could build their software, his job was to sit down with that person and to pull all of the details accurately out of that person's head and translate it into something that a developer could actually do. And depending on the size of the project, that process would take somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks, sometimes as much as 8 weeks. Our average was about 6 weeks per client. And I noticed that he was given a client with a huge project and he onboarded them in 4 days. And I went, what in the world is that about? And so I thought he was getting lazy, like, because it was impossible. Like, he did something that was actually impossible. And so this would have been March, I guess, of 2022. And so I sat down with him and was like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, you got to see this cool thing. So there's this company called OpenAI that no one really knows about, and they've released this thing called a large language model, or a language model, called DaVinci 001, and it's epic. Like, it thinks. I was like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I know how AI works, and there's no such thing as AI that thinks. Like, it's like maybe it's mimicking thinking or something. So we had this discussion, and he showed me what he had built. And back then, like, large language models didn't have these crazy huge contexts, that we see today. Like, I think that model had a context of 2,000 tokens, maybe four. I can't remember off the top of my head, which is like a couple of paragraphs. Like, like almost no input and almost no output. And he had built this crazy system where he could feed it the transcripts from all of the calls that he had with clients, and it would output all of the documentation that was needed. And so he took what was a 6-week process of, maybe writing 200 pages of documentation down to a 4-day process of basically just talking to clients. And then these models would output everything that the developers needed based on the conversations that he had with them, as long as he asked the right questions, which he was really good at. And for me, that was the moment that I realized that you could get work done that normally only a human could do with a computer, because there was this spark of intelligence that these language models had. And we never really even like coined a term for it. There wasn't enough going on in the market to know what it was. And so I started thinking about it as digital labor. Like, you have taken labor, which is something historically speaking that a human does, and you've digitized it. Now, really what we had done was created some really cool automated workflows, but they had the spark of agency and agents, right? It could do work for him. He could direct it and it acted as his agent, an agent for him to go out and do these things that I was traditionally paying him to do. And so then that took me down the rabbit hole, man. I started exploring, digging, researching, reading papers. I read Attention Is All That You Need, which was really the paper I think that was the foundational breakthrough. And then in November of 2022, when ChatGPT 3.5 came out and I used it for the first time, I realized that this was probably the most impactful piece of technology that human beings had ever invented in the history of the world. Because in my mind, I had already been exploring digital labor, right? And I was imagining these systems that we would build using this way inferior technology, which was, the Da Vinci model series. And all of a sudden we have access to 16,000 tokens and even up to 32,000 tokens. We've got this model that really could pass a Turing test. Like, it sounded like a human. You could ask it a question or to reason through something, and it could reason through it like a person would. Now, maybe not a smart person, but a person. And so we decided in that moment that we were going to start building AI agents. And the idea has evolved a lot from there. And so I don't think I'll talk anymore about like what that looked like, other than just state the outcome. I had 370 employees that worked for me. And we'll have a conversation later about what the sociological and economic impacts of what actually happens when a company does this. But I went from 370 employees down to the 80 people that I have today inside that company, and 160 AI agents that are doing work. And we are far more productive than we were with 370 people, far more productive. And I've got people that work inside that company that don't even have enough work to work full time. Like, they're just there pulling a paycheck because I need people watching over the agents that are actually getting work done. And that all really stemmed from that one experience that I had. And what I would say was an obsession with the idea of digital labor, and how do you digitize value creation and the traditional like human-led value creation that people have been doing ever since we, chiseled rocks into round objects and hooked them to carts and pulled them, right? Or made wagon wheels, or, created bows, or whatever enterprise that we were doing. Like, how do you begin to digitize those things? So in my mind, this is what an agent is. I think it's easy to understand because we have lots of agents already. We've had agents for 50 or 100 years in our society, right? You have insurance agents, which means that there's a broker, and you're going out on behalf of that broker with intelligence, with your own memory and understanding of what it is that you do, with the tools necessary and the processes necessary to do work on behalf of your insurance broker. Or we have real estate agents that work for a broker that do the same thing. And so in my mind, an agent is an autonomous, or at least an AI agent is an autonomous AI system that is set up to go and do work on behalf of somebody else on its own, with its own reasoning, its own memory, its own tools, its own processes, and its own problem solving abilities, thinking, and all of that stuff to accomplish whatever goal it is that you set in front of it. And so that's how I would define an agent.
Yeah, that was a lot to absorb, and very well, very well stated. Yeah, I mean, agents can be human or
Yeah.
artificial.
I mean,
Uh,
at the end of the day, anybody who's doing something for somebody else on their own with autonomy is an agent.
there's
That's what
just
an agent is,
there's
right?
just
I'm doing something for you. If I'm working for you and you have a goal of, like your job is to go and do a podcast, and it's like, well, I'll go do your podcast for you. And you're like, oh, sweet. I become your agent. Like I find out what your priorities are, how you talk to guests, how you do your prep, but you let me do it with my own autonomy, meaning you're not going to force me into some box and turn me into an automaton or a robot, which often does happen with employees. And those are employees, they're not agents, right? But you could make me an agent and say, hey, listen, I want you to be an agent. I want you to go start doing your version of the AI Digest podcast. And then I could become an agent of the AI Digest podcast and go meet people, have these conversations, and do what you do, right? And then I would be an agent. And it's not like you load me up with everything. Like I need to have the tools and the ability to understand what you do and the intelligence to have the conversations and to find the guests and download the software and all the things that you do, which I don't really know what goes into a podcast on your end. But and then I'm your agent, right? Or I'm a real estate agent. I work for the broker. I sell
I
houses. Like,
I think you brought up some really good points in the beginning where intent and actions are really just interchangeable parts of things to do, right? Like you mentioned, chiseling stone into wheels, and wheels were used to pull carts. We do that with scripts. We do that with little programs. We do that with software. We impose our will in a particular way, and data UIs are just used to kind of digitize that will and make it interoperable with other machines, other software, other people. So, you know,
when I think it goes a little bit beyond that, and the reason I'd say that is because one of the trends that I see happening in this AI agent space, and a lot of conversations, a lot of products I see people releasing into the market, they're calling them agents, but they have no agency.
mhm.
They have no autonomy to make decisions, to decide how am I going to deal with with this particular client based on the research that I've done. What messaging am I going to send them based on the research that's done. But really what they are creating is they're creating the automation 2.0 revolution, right? Like now that we have intelligence, let's create intelligent automation. And we do this with humans. Like oftentimes that's what employees are, is their intelligent automation. You say, hey, this is what you do from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night. You take this from here and you put it there, and then you write this on a label and you stick it there and you push it over to this thing, and like this is your job. And now you have, like, if something breaks, something small breaks, they can figure it out because it's intelligent enough to continue the automated process. But I think it's necessary. Like that's going to be a part of the AI, of the digital labor revolution, is going to be automation 2.0, because a enterprise needs both intelligent automation, but it also needs agency, because where you would use agency is whoever's running that automation, he has to be able to solve big problems on his own without always calling his boss up and saying, I have no idea how to do this. I don't know. Like he needs to think, okay, I know what my job is. I understand what the overarching goal is of what it is that we're doing here, what I'm doing here at this company. I know what I'm going to be judged on. I understand my OKRs. I understand my KPIs. I'm going to be able to solve this problem because I have the intelligence to do it. I know where I am and what I'm doing and what my job is. I've got the tools to do it. I'll get an email. I'll do whatever, and I've got processes that I'm going to follow in order to make that happen. And then you have what I would say would be an agent that works inside your company. Um,
When I hear agent, I think of James Bond 007. I think of someone that is called to be delivered a mission. Hey, James Bond, there's an evil villain that we have to stop from world domination. Your mission is to stop him. He gets gadgets, but then he's on his own. He has to resolve a series of challenges and tasks. He has to deploy tools in the right environments, in the right situations, and he has to learn how to reason through accomplishing that mission without getting further support or information from the orchestrator, from the broker, from whatever kind of person
Yeah.
originated that intent.
Yeah. Dude, we have FBI agents and CIA agents, and it's the same thing. You send someone out into the field and they don't know what they're doing and how they work and how to solve problems. Like, that's a bummer because they're not gonna, like, they won't survive it.
But they have
And so
protocols.
yeah, so it's a phenomenal, actually it might be the best, that might be the best analogy I've heard to date, would be that, because that is, you have to be able to act in isolation within your own intelligence, your own reasoning, your own tools, your own processes, and work autonomously, like independently from whatever you're an agent to. And so if you're an agent for the FBI, you can't just always call them up and be like, hey, I just saw this guy and he's doing these things. Like, what should I
Do I
do? It's
catch
like,
him? Do I catch him? Do you want
yeah,
me to take a
yeah,
picture of
like,
him?
yeah, like that's an employee, right? Like that is what that is in this context. That it would be a intelligent automation, or a automation 2.0. And it's really important. Like, I think agents should have access to that kind of automation, and that should be in their toolbox because it'll make them more effective.
Mhm.
um, but it is most certainly not an agent. And if you look at the products on the market and you just ask yourself one thing, like, can I start this with a goal and a mission, and will it run forever, always accomplishing that mission for me? If it can't, it's not an agent. If it can, then it is. And what you'll discover is that 99 out of 100 products that are released today under the term AI agent, they're not. They're just intelligent automations.
We also spoke about, yeah, intelligent automations. We also spoke about disambiguating that Zapier or simple workflows. If
Or
else,
NA10, or
then do
yeah,
this. In case this happens, break out here, give notification there. There's no, yeah, no autonomy, no memory, no learning, no self adjustment. You mentioned,
yeah,
and I think this would be a little bit of a clearer explanation on how you deliver value for an organization and how you replace a physical employee, a human employee, with uh, the digital labor that you've coined the term before. You mentioned that there are four elements to an agent in order to deliver value. Can you go over those a little bit?
yeah, yeah. So all value creation is based on four simple things, and really, you get value creation with just three. It stands on its own, but the fourth is necessary to multiply as kind of a, like, an X multiplier on the value you create. So number one is intelligence. This is usually how I explain it to people. If I want to give you a task and you're stupid, you'll probably fail. If I give you a task and you're intelligent, you'll probably succeed. And so intelligence is really, really important for task completion, right? Or for value creation. So that's number one. Really easy to understand. Like, a child could understand this concept. But that's not the only thing. Because let's say that you're the smartest person in the entire world, but you have no memory, meaning I hire you to do something, and the next day you show up and you have no idea where you work. You have no idea what your job is, and you have no idea what to do. And let's say you have a lot of intelligence. So then I explain it again. You're like, oh, yeah, yeah. You get your job done. And then the next day you show up and you forget everything again. Once again, like, no sustainable value creation can happen if you don't actually have some sort of persistent memory of what your goals are, where you work, what you do, what you're trying to accomplish. And like I said, once again, very intuitive. Like, a child can understand this. No memory, no value creation. The third is tools. And so let's say you're a graphics designer and I hire you, and you have no computer, you have no pencils, no colored pen, you have no crayons. In fact, you don't even have fingers, so you can't draw on the dust on the windshield of a vehicle. Like, you're going to fail. It doesn't matter if you're the smartest person in the world with the best memory in the world. If you have no tools, you're going to fail. You just can't accomplish the task. With those three things in place, though, you can begin to create value. And I would say those are the base requirements. And then the fourth, which is the multiplier, would be processes. And usually I explain this like this: like, if you're the smartest person in the world, you have the best memory in the world, and you have the best tools in the world. And let's say I'm average or mediocre on all three of those, but you have no processes at all in your job. You don't think in processes. It's all just chaos. You don't show up to work at any given time. You don't do things in any given order any day. Everything is always a little bit different. But me, on the other hand, I have really, really good, efficient, the best processes in the world for everything I do. Who would you rather have working for you? The smartest guy in the world with the best memory in the world and the best tools in the world and no processes, or a mediocre dude with amazing processes? Well, the truth is, I'll outperform you because I've got processes. And so when you take and you add really good processes onto the most intelligent system in the world with the best memory in the world and the best tools in the world, all of a sudden you have something that is a superhuman value creator. Because with those four elements, there really is nothing else that you need to create value. You can get any task done, you can solve any problem. You can actually have agency and autonomy and go out into the world and create value based on high level goals and instructions that your broker or your agency sets for you. And so that's usually how I like to explain it. And that's like when I realized that most of the products that were being built were intelligent with no memory, or all memory and no intelligence, or all tool use and nothing else, or all process and no intelligence. It was like, I need to build something that people can actually build and operate these agents from, which is the whole reason that I came up with Rue. And the whole reason we started building it was because, like, in a world where people are going to start utilizing digital labor and digital workforces to get work for them, they need some place that these can live, where they have all four of those components and can utilize all four of those components to go out and get work done on behalf of somebody else.
I'm glad that you mentioned those four components. I mean, they apply to humans as well, right?
100%.
It's all the
That's what
same.
everyone's looking for in good employees. Yeah,
You're just
100%.
you just took that concept and broke it down in a way that you can configure that for digital labor. So
Yeah.
now here comes the question where I've found no clear answer so far. Not from you, but just in searching and looking
I might not
elsewhere.
give you one either.
There are a multitude of agents in an enterprise, like you described in the one that you replaced 220 workers with 160 agents. How do you create a hierarchy of monitoring, of quality assurance, of alignment? How do you measure the performance, and then how do you keep them working productively within a certain scope, context, function?
That. So I do have an answer for you, because I think the answer is actually way simpler than people think, because I see a lot of people having these discussions, and I think that people are overthinking this. Um, so biological labor, i.e., hiring a meat sack to come in and do work for you, is about the most inefficient way that you can get things done, certain things. But we've done it for a long time, right? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years we've been doing this. And so we've actually, as human beings, gotten really, really good at taking very inefficient systems and making them efficient. The way that we typically do that in like very successful enterprises is through hierarchy and reporting and all of that stuff, right? So we actually have the framework in place already to understand whether or not a system is doing what it's supposed to do or not supposed to do. And usually that's done through like OKRs, like what's your objective? What are your key results that you're going to get? Or we do it through KPIs, and we look at these key point indicators inside of a business. And then we tell people, listen, I want you to take all of those things that you're keeping track of to figure out whether or not you're successful or not in what you're doing. And I want you to just push that information up the chain. And the picture gets broader and broader and broader as it goes to the top, so that you can then, if you have autonomous layers of hierarchy inside your company, you can then push those instructions or changes back down. It affects everyone's OKRs and KPIs. You can shift the direction of an enterprise. And I think it's actually that simple. Like I've got an SDR agent that we just built that goes prospecting for people, right? So you say, you now work at Rue, or you now work for the AI Digital Podcast, and I want you to go find guests for me. And it goes, okay. And it goes out and it watches every podcast you've ever done and figures out what the content is. It goes to your website. It researches who you are. It figures out who your ICP is based on who it is that you're talking to in the past. It puts a list together, and then it's going to go and start sending those people emails and saying, hey, like I think you'd be a good fit for as a guest on my show. And it does it based on what that person's been tweeting, like what it is that they're passionate about, what it is they're saying on social media, the different other podcasts that they've been on. Once it identifies them, right, it's going to research who they are individually and then create a campaign for them. Well, I need to know if that's working, right? I've told it to go out and find me guests. So I need to know if it's working. So you just set it up just like you would a human. Hey, once a week, I want you to tell me how many people you've reached out to. I want to know how many of those people have responded. And I want to know how many meetings we've got set up based on all of that work, so that we can keep track of your OKRs and your KPIs and make sure that you're actually being efficient in the way that you're working. And if you're not the person, if it's not reporting directly to you at the top, then it just gives it to another agent that's in charge of reporting everything. Because why not? Like, you can, here's a shift that I think people have a hard time understanding and making. In theory, there's no reason that a one-person company couldn't have 1,000 AI agent employees working for them, each doing individual tasks perfectly. Like, if you think about biological labor, and I'll bring up sales because this is really simple. Why do we not hire one salesperson to go after one prospect? It would be the most effective, right? If I went and I said, okay, I want to be prospecting 1,000 people a month, and I want to do it perfectly. The most effective way to do that would be to hire a salesperson and say, this is your prospect, go close them. Do whatever you need to do. And you're only allowed to work with one at a time. Like, why don't we do that? It's the most effective. Well, it's because human labor, like biological labor, is wildly expensive, incredibly difficult to manage. Like, it's got tons of problems attached to it, right? So because of those limitations, we try to be as efficient as we possibly can and compromise what is most effective. And so, like, when you start thinking about reporting and things along those lines, like how I've got my SDR agent set up is it spins up an instance of itself, kind of, for every single prospect it goes after. And so if I'm going after 600 prospects, it's not that I have to monitor one agent that's going after 600 prospects. That'd be stupid. It's not the most effective way to prospect. I actually have 600 agents, each going after one prospect, and I need them to tell me how it's going with their prospect. And so then they're going to push their data up the chain, right? And there's going to be an agent that sits on top, and it's going to take that data and put it into a report that it can send to me as the CEO of the company. And so then if you want to change things, you just push information back down the chain, exactly like you would with humans. It works really, really well.
Let me take a pause there and see if I can kind of pull this apart and visualize it in my head so that I can understand better. And maybe, if there's anybody watching that would like to ask a question, I'd also invite you to help kind of digest this a little bit. So you've described this process. You've prescribed the sequence of tasks that need to be accomplished, and then you've just multiplied the formula. Like, if you were to prospect for an individual, this is the sequence of tasks that you would do. You would try to make contact with them. You would try to get them to respond to you. You would try to book a call. You would try to mine them for the information that's relevant to the service you could provide. And then from that information that you're gathering, that
you communicate with them perfectly.
That agent, whether it's human or machine, is ingesting this information and figuring out how to pivot and bring the conversation closer to a close.
Yep.
If you have 5, you have 5 agents. If you have 100, you have 100 agents. Now, they will report to a superior of sorts, or someone that needs to be taking on the baton of the next task, right? If it's a complex cycle, right?
Yeah, I mean, really what they're doing is they're just saving all of that data, and then there's another agent that's reading it and creating reports. And why not have an agent that's looking at data and creates reports, and that's all it does? Like, why not? Like, the reason we don't do that in human enterprise is because it's wasteful, right? Like,
You're,
biological labor is expensive, but in the digital world, it's not expensive at all.
you're chopping the function of an activity down to one machine, one
Yeah.
semi, you know,
Well,
input,
and the thing
output.
is, I got into this debate with this guy one time, and he's like, "Well, that's so inefficient because one agent can do like a lot more than that." And I'm like, "Yeah, but why? Like, we're not. Who cares about efficiency anymore? Because the labor itself is almost the cost is effectively $0 effectively compared to biological labor. And so why not now optimize for effectiveness? Because now
Uh,
what we can do is we can take every process that we're working and we can make it as effective as possible."
I agree with you, and I frankly don't understand why somebody would call it ineffective. If they look at it through the view of physical reality, where you have one individual just doing one thing, of course that's wasteful. But if you look at industrialized processes that they have very expensive machinery that just do one function, sift the sand,
Or the
sift the
industrial
gravel.
revolution. Like, think about production lines, what they figure out during production lines. Like, we've known this for a long time. I don't understand why we can't apply it to the digital labor revolution, because we figured it out in the first labor revolution. Like, if you have one dude putting in one bolt, then passing it to the next guy who's going to put in the next bolt, that guy's going to get
Exactly.
really good at putting in one bolt. And
Yeah.
you have a less expensive, higher quality item at the end of the production line. And so why not? Like, we can. And I just think that people haven't really thought about, I just don't think people think about this enough. That's what I think it boils down to.
Okay, so we've established the way that this functions as like a series of cartoon hands that do the thing that they've been instructed to do. Now let's peer behind that. Do you go and engage the CEO or their C-suite and you say, in your business model, what are the set of activities that work? Obviously, there's like some things that apply to any kind of business model, functional areas, marketing, sales, the operations to fulfill the sale, and accounting to make sure that you can grab the cash once it's been fulfilled. Um, do you go to the individual that owns the organization and say, I can help you streamline your organization from this blueprint, from this business model? How should we proceed? How does that happen?
So typically speaking, what I tell people, I mean, right now, just getting people to like jump into this because it's new and scary, and it disrupts everything in a lot of ways. It's kind of system breaking to an extent. I found that with larger enterprises, it's just hard. Like, those guys aren't desperate enough. They already have us, like, they've grown to a point where they've got a pretty well-oiled machine, and they don't want to break their well-oiled machine by bringing in, by setting up, in a sense, I guess, AI production line. Never really thought of it like that, but on the smaller companies, usually you go to them, they're desperate, right? Because they're dealing
Resource
with all the
constraints.
problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of, their hair's on fire every day, and they're shoveling out the manure pin of problems that they have. And so when you go to them and you say, hey, like, we can do this, usually what they immediately do is they say, well, this is the biggest problem I have in my company right now. How would you do this? And I just ask them to think about one single thing. I said, if you could hire anyone in the world, or any set of people in the world, or any 100 people in the world to make this problem go away instantly, who are they and what would they do? And as soon as you know the answer to that question, because what a smaller business owner is trying to do is they're trying to hire one person to do three people's jobs, because they have the biological constraint of humans are expensive. They have to go feed themselves. They have to go do all these things. As soon as you tell them, you can do anything that you want, like hire anyone that you want, they come back and say, okay, what I would do is I would have one person monitoring this email account 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And any time that there was a complaint or a problem or something like that, this is the process that they would follow, and they would deal with this. And if it couldn't deal with it, it would escalate it to this person, or I would set up it as something where, when we're trying to get clients to give us their documentation and they won't give us their documentation, like, I'd have one person and all he did was just track clients down. Please give me this stuff. I need it to get started. please give me this stuff. I need to get started. Please sign this thing. And it would have a great personality, and she'd be super friendly, and she would just chase people down all day, every day, and try to figure out how to get that documentation that we need to get started. And it's like, sweet, there you go. And once you have that written down, then all you have to do is just set up those parameters for an AI agent on a platform like Rue, or there's other ones that are out there, and build it, give it access to the tools that it needs, give it those workflows. This is how you do it. And then turn it loose and say, go do this job for me.
Okay,
And it will.
let me pull that back and let me redigest that and see if I got it. So you would address the individual that's responsible for an organization. As you said before, a business is a function in society. It takes raw material and it produces a finished product. People don't pay for the labor. People don't pay for the effort that goes into producing the product. People pay for the end product so that they can use that in their own needs and their own problem solving situations. You talk to the person and you say, what if labor is not a constraint, what is the biggest problem that you face today? And as you unravel the series of problems and bottlenecks that they have, you document the jobs that are to be done in the organization, and then you take that documentation and then you go in and
And
implement
build
it.
agents. Yeah, you just go build agents. Like, I think that the world will shift in the next 2 years, where like we're building a proprietary piece of tech right now that all you have to do is tell this agent your problems, and it will create agents for you. And so it'll build all the workflows, it'll connect it to all your tools, it'll give it its OKRs and its KPIs. It'll basically hire you an agent, in a sense. We won't have it out till probably the end of the second quarter of next year, but that is the direction that it's going to go. And so if anybody needs labor in their business, they're going to go have a conversation with an AI platform and say, I have this problem and I don't know what to do about it. Can you help me? It's like, oh yeah, here's how I'd help you. And it's going to ask all the relevant questions, like who do you use for email? What do you use to sign things? What do you use to do this and that and the other thing? They'll say, sweet, this is what you need. Is you need this intelligence. Here's the best model for you. It has to be really good at math because this is an accounting thing. And so we're going to give you a model that's really good at math. It has to have access to these tools. This is the workflow that it's going to use. Does that sound good? Yes. Okay, sweet. Here's your agent. Give it access to those tools and turn it loose.
Let me pull on those strings. You said intelligence. By intelligence, do you mean the kind of LLM model that is
Yeah.
being used? Okay. And
Yeah.
when you say memory, do you mean like a database? Do you mean like a log? What kind of memory do you
So
mean?
so it depends. Like different tasks require different kinds of memory. But I think at kind of a minimum, every task would require a knowledge graph, right? So a knowledge graph is just a a graph of knowledge that is organized by sentiment, right? So it can easily be found with a probably RAG on top of that can then be modified by the agent when it discovers things that are necessary to do its job. So some place for it to store its aha moments, for it to realize what it should and shouldn't do based on the outcome of what it has done, and to store its job description and things along those lines. So that's basically what I mean by memory.
So would that be sort of like in the knowledge graphs there are two major flavors, and then there are some other terminology that kind of gets mixed into that space, into that term. There's the semantic knowledge graphs that are composed of ontologies and represented in RDF, RDFS, and OWL, Shackle, whatever. Then there's label property graphs, which are a flatter representation of nodes and edges. Are you
Yeah,
referencing
I
another?
I would say the prior. Like I think that it is helpful to be able to like tokenize data, and is not the right way to say it, but in a sense store it three-dimensionally, right? So that
Like
it's
vector
easier for
databases?
yeah.
Vector
Yeah.
databases?
Yeah,
Okay.
basically.
Okay, so you have sort of like a prompt or an instruction that kind of feeds and aligns the behavior of the LLM. That's what you
Basically.
Okay.
And just allows it to, like, for instance, like in like our sales development representative agent, like if it goes and it creates a campaign on its own, right, and it sends it out and it gets no response, like everyone hates it, and it gets zero response, it needs to be able to do something about that, right? And so it needs to be able to look at what happened and say, okay, I didn't meet my I didn't hit my metrics on this. Like what went wrong? And it self-analyzes, self-corrects, and then once it has that new aha moment, that new bit of understanding or education, it has to be able to take that and put it somewhere so that it doesn't make the same mistake again.
Right.
And
But
so,
it's kind of logging
yep.
the outcome of its actions. So that's how is that learning being expressed in that model? How does that work? Like,
I mean, ultimately, if you do your prompt engineering right, so it understands its instructions, and it basically says, hey, listen, like before you do any work, you need to look at, like, check your memory. You need to find out whether or not you've made any mistakes in the past that you don't want to make again, and you need to find out if you had any huge successes that you do want to duplicate. And so it goes, okay, well, I want to create a campaign, but I can't do that until I've actually looked at my memory. And so then it goes logically and just looks at its memory and goes, oh, wow, like here's the mistakes, pulls that into its context. So now it can create a good campaign that's actually going to work, and then continue to monitor. And the truth is that if you architect it, if you have the correct architecture, and you've thought through how you're going to do this, it's relatively easy to get models to self-reflect and store like appropriate appropriate memories so that it can work well in the future. Like it's just like a person. Like if I ask you to go do something, right, and you've done something dumb in the past, I'd be like, well, why aren't you going to do it
from
this way? Well, I've done
experience,
it. That was stupid. Like
you
I'm
learn
not going
from
to do that again.
experience.
That was dumb. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You gain experience, right? Which are just things you've experienced that turn into memories that you now are not going to do that dumb thing again. Or maybe you've done something that worked really well and you're like, man, I know how to do this. It's like, well, how do you know? Well, it's because you're accessing, in a sense, your knowledge graph with those experiences, and then it dictates your current actions. And
So
you can set up that same environment for agents.
that sounds a lot like the Deming cycle in quality assurance: plan, do, check, act. You plan to do an action, you do it, you check to see the outcome of that action, was it good or bad? And then based on that, you develop action items to remediate, improve, refine wherever possible. And then you just sequence, iterate on that. Um,
Yeah, 100%. Never actually put it into a into an actual like framework, but it's not a bad idea. Like I might implement that in our memory system for the agents that we're building, because why not have a framework that it can sit inside of?
you mentioned when you said that you still had human employees, that they were there to monitor and provide oversight for the AI agents. How does that work?
I mean, at the end of the day, what I've discovered is that the best agents that I have ever made are like the kinds of employees that people hire that are really, really good at following processes and dealing with things they already know how to deal with. But when they get too far outside the realm of their current set of instructions, they lose their way. And it's kind of like, in your earlier analogy, James Bond goes after the villain, and all of a sudden he finds out, like, wait a minute, that's not the villain, he's the good guy. And now I don't know what to do, because this is way outside. Like this is not, no movies go like this. Like nobody deals with this. But now that I've gotten here and had a cup of coffee with the guy, like he's a good guy. Like I can't go after him. He's not what I thought he was. And when an agent gets so far outside of its instruction set and what it understands how to do, human beings have to come in and provide what I would say is wisdom, right? And that's different from intelligence. Like now, how do we deal with this situation? James Bond's just met with this guy, had a cup of coffee with him. He's a good guy. Like now he needs to call headquarters and say, what in the world do I do with this? Like, this is a good guy, and I've never run across this before, and I don't know how to deal with it. And that's what humans tend to provide, is the wisdom to know how to deal with situations that are so far outside the purview that problem solving, reasoning, and all those things can't actually help them.
So how do you like what does that alignment realignment of the agent look like? Do you evaluate its performance and say, "Yo, buddy, I told you to mow the lawn, not mow the tree or mow the whatever, not mow the petunias. I wanted the petunias." Do you then go and look into the instruction set that it has and say, "Petunia is
Yep.
good, that's bad."
Yeah. And well, usually what you'll do is you'll go in and you'll look and you'll realize that when I gave you, I mean, you ever read the kids' books with the character Amelia Bedelia, or heard of
Sounds
them?
familiar.
So unless you have kids, you won't have read them, but there's this kids book. It's awesome. I make all my developers read it, at least one story. And the reason I make them read it is because all AI agents act like Amelia Bedelia, and she takes everything literally. Like, if if you tell her, I want you to make a pie, and in the pie, in the recipe, it calls for dates, like, she'll cut up a calendar and put the dates into the pie, because she wasn't told to use the dates that are food. She was told to just use dates, and she saw the calendar and it had dates on it, and so why not put it in the pie, right? And she makes all these really dumb mistakes, and kids think it's awesome, right? Because they read it and it's like kind of that pattern interrupt. But in a lot of ways, agents are that they do what you tell them to do. And so, typically speaking, when we have an agent that we've built that is acting up, almost always you can go back through the instruction set, and you can go back through like the job description that you gave it and its end goals that you gave it, and you find that you overlooked something. It's kind of there was this trend going around years ago in like middle school, right, where the teacher would bring in a loaf of bread and some peanut butter and jelly and have the kids write down instructions on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And they'd say, well, first you take the bread and then you put the peanut butter on it, and then you put the jelly on it. And so she would do that. She would take the loaf of bread and she wouldn't open it up, and she would start putting peanut butter on the package, and then she put jelly on the package. And that's the problem that people typically have with agents, is they actually haven't thought through the process and haven't thought through what that agent needs to do in order to accomplish their job.
And
And so
that happens in normal organizations with humans too, right? Like, they
100%.
are not familiar with the domain or the sequence of emails that need to be sent, or
Yep.
any of those things that are missing from the human experience that can't be expressed in the agent are gonna fall through the cracks, right?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Now, luckily, like with the newest large language models that are coming out, like if you ask them to do something really stupid, they'll push back and they'll be like, it doesn't seem right. And so they'll catch a lot of that stuff because they are intelligent enough now to do it. But typically speaking, when there are mistakes, that's where you'll find them. It's just in how you describe the job to them and what it is that they're supposed to be doing. I'll give you a good example of this. The first iteration of an agent that I built was supposed to go do research, investor research, figure out who these people were. And then I told it, I want you to build rapport in your first email. And I want you to talk to them like they're like an old friend. And you send out your first email and you try to set an appointment. And so it's going along, doing a great job, getting calls. And all of a sudden I get a call from this guy, and he's upset because I said in the email I sent to him, I said, hey, so I had dinner with your wife last night, because he had talked about his wife on social media, right? And it threw me under the bus and said that I was, basically I was having an affair with his wife. And, I thought him and I ought to get together. Well, sure, Sally went and set up a meeting because he was pretty upset that I was, and it created a problem, right? Well, the agent was doing exactly what it was supposed to do. I had just given it too vague of instructions and too much freedom in that instruction set. And it was like, what would really work is if I told this guy that, and I looked at the reasoning for why it wrote the email, because we save it all in logs. And basically it was like, hey, this person's wife is really close to him. Like if that's the closest connection I can find to him, and I tell him that I know her, and that not only do I know her, like I had dinner with her last night, like that would build a lot of rapport, and it made sense to it. And so it went and wrote that in the email. And so then to correct that, all you do is go in and say, hey, listen, like I know I gave you those instructions, but that was a bad, that's not going to work for me in the future. I don't want some jealous husband, taking me out. And so, why don't we stay away from those kinds of things? And then it goes and adds that to its memory, and it continues to work, and it won't ever make that mistake again. And so,
Just I think this is a fabulous opportunity to take advantage of digital labor, as you said. More so for simplistic things that kind of need to get some oversight as you adopt and learn and tweak and train and correct and build guardrails and even improve the description, the activities, the
yep.
instructions for the agent. Um, Usually, how long from the beginning engagement, getting the requirement that the individual organization provides you with, to it being more than 80% productive? How does that
Yeah.
look? And usually, what does that timeline look like?
So if we're building a fully custom agent, usually in 3 weeks, maybe 4, depending on the complexity of the agent, it'll be up and running. And then the next 2 months is just fine tuning, to where, if something goes haywire, or something isn't working like they want it to, like you fine tune. Within 3 months, though, you have an agent that can do that job perfectly every time, all the time, without any mistakes. 100 times better than your best person is typically what it looks like. Every once in a while, we'll hit the nail on the head. We'll build something in a month and it'll work perfectly. But usually there's just things that get missed because human beings are building them. That's why I'm working on building an agent to build agents, because typically speaking, it's in the requirements gathering, or the questions that were asked, or how the job was described, or some sort of human error that creates problems. And then it just takes time to iron those problems out as they come up, or there'll be edge cases that people didn't think about, or things along those lines. But yeah, I mean, a really simple agent, you could build in, like, I build agents all the time, just for, like, because I can, and because I don't, like if I have a task that's going to take me more than 3 hours, I go build an agent, because it'll take me an hour to build it and it'll take it 15 minutes to get done. And so I'll build little agents in an hour. That's like, hey, I want you to take a look at this spreadsheet and I want you to do these things with it. And I just don't want to spend the time to do it. And so, like, depending on the skills that you have, like, you can utilize agents in that way. And I'll do it for tasks that I only plan on doing once, because I'll spend less time building the agent and having the agent do it than going and doing it myself.
So, in the context of, okay, you have a task, you build an agent, you assign it 1 to 3 things to do, and then you want to start stacking these agents. How do you begin to do that? Is there a house? Is there a virtual
Yeah.
office?
So, like, we've played around with a couple of things. We built a few custom protocol, but I think kind of the de facto standard is agent to agent, the agent to agent protocol that Google released. And so, like, we've kind of got a typical stack that we use when we're building. Like, if I'm going to build a custom agent, like, I'll probably use mem0 for memory. I'm probably going to use MCP for tool use. I'm probably going to use agent to agent for interagent communication.
But
We have our
where
own
do
proprietary. Go
where
ahead.
do they live? Like, where do you deploy them? Where do they live? Where do they exist? How do they cooperate?
Yeah, so for us, all of it lives on Rue, because that's why I built it. Because there isn't really, unless you want to go build a custom implementation somewhere, like, there really isn't a good place to deploy an agent that can utilize all 4 pillars of Intel, all 4 pillars of value creation. Like, I haven't found it yet. That was the reason that we spent time building Rue. And so that's where I put it. If I can do a shameless plug on why I built it and why it exists. Because ultimately, here's the thing, is that this process was hard. 3 years ago, it was almost impossible. 2 years ago, it was very difficult. A year ago, like, only really, really, really smart technical people could do it. But the time is coming within the next year, 2026, where owns a business is going to be able to build and deploy an agent into their business. As long as someone will build a framework to do that. And that's why I built Rue, is because I want someone who's non-technical, who runs a business and understands that they need labor to get done in a certain way to be able to go onto the platform, build an agent just by having a conversation with the agent that builds agents, talk to it. It'll ask all the right questions. And then it goes and it does the work. It builds the agent. It says, hey, here's all the tools you need to connect up. They click on it. They can log in, give the agent access to those tools, restrict it in whatever ways they need to. And then they say deploy. And it just, deploys onto our architecture and our workflow orchestration and all of that stuff to just run. Because right now, I think the industry is new enough that that doesn't exist, which is the whole problem that I'm trying to solve with Rue.
It makes sense that from your deep expertise in developing software and blockchain and all these different kinds of technologies, that you don't want to repeat yourself, right? Stay dry, don't get wet. Do
Yep.
not repeat yourself. Writing everything twice. So if the bottleneck was, damn, every time I gotta go retrieve a memory bank and this, that, and the other for every single project, my throughput is taxed. It's limited. There's a constraint. But if I have a platform to just spin these up, great. But then I still have to configure them and I still have to find the specifications to make them. Damn, if there's only a way to meta program these things, now there's no
Yeah.
throughput.
Yep.
So
And that's the whole reason I'm like, as soon as I became interested in AI agents and I built maybe 15 or 20 different agents for different companies way back in the day, there was patterns that started to emerge, right? Like, in order to get these things to work effectively, we need X and we need X and we need this and we need that. And it has to be able to do these things. And, after a couple of years of working with clients and building agents for ourselves, it became very clear, like, this is everything you need to build an AI agent that has agency and is fully autonomous and can make decisions on its own, continually improve itself, and work on long horizon tasks. And so I had enough clients and enough discouragement about the way the industry was going and what people were building. I thought, I'm just going to build it. Like, I have a software development company. It'd be stupid not to build this and get it out so that people can actually start taking advantage of the massive opportunity that digital labor is going to be over the course of the next, decade. And when I say digital labor, I'm including, intelligent automation and kind of the automation 2.0 revolution, AI agents. Like, there's a lot of things that fall under that category. It's not just AI agents. I think there ought to be a place where people can, like Upwork, right? Or like any freelancing platform where you go and hire, i.e. build an agent to get work done for you and then deploy it into your business. Like that platform needs to exist. And nobody was working on it. And so just decided, sweet, I guess I'll build it because I want it and lots of people want it. And so it's time to build it.
we really didn't get a lot of time to talk about this, but what are your perspectives in this displacement of human talent,
Yeah, dude, that's like almost podcast number 2. I mean, most people don't realize the scale at which humans are going to be displaced. Number one, like there's around somewhere between 50 and 70 trillion dollars worth of knowledge work done annually on a global basis. The prediction is right now that at the state the technology is in today, you can replace half of those jobs. So that is a lot of jobs. If you take the lower end, that's $25 trillion a year taken out of somebody's bank account, right? What in the world are those people going to do? Like, it is a massive, massive, massive problem. And I don't know that it's actually solved on the level of us talking, other than maybe if we just pressure the powers that be, like, listen, this is coming, this is real. What are we going to do economically? What are people going to do and have purpose in? Like, are we going to create a universal basic income and we're going to actually pay people to just be people because the AI agents are doing all this value creation for us? Like we have to figure this problem out. And I don't think we have as much time. One of the things people tell me is like, well, we made it through the Industrial Revolution. It's like, okay, yeah, that's true. Like half of the workers lost their job. It's the same. But it happened over 100 years. We were barely able to create enough jobs to replace those people over the course of 100 years, right? And it's actually such a devastating and big event that it's in the history books, and it's a household. It's not like I say Industrial Revolution, people are like, I've never heard of that before. Like, it's a big deal. The AI labor revolution that's currently happening, it's predicted that it will probably replace those 25 trillion jobs in the next 48 months. We're not talking 100 years. We're talking 100 months, maybe, or half that. And so, like, we really do have to do something about this. But I think that this happens at the level of like government, right? We're going to have to figure out what policies need to be created, how we're going to protect people from this. Like, you could, I mean, if you could get every business owner in the world to say, listen, once I replace my people, I'm going to just keep paying them. But that's not going to happen. Like,
Let's
there's
be
no
honest.
way. Yeah,
Clear that.
it's just not going to happen. Like, there's no way on earth. You could say, well, we'll create jobs for them. They'll be running AIs. No, they won't. Like, that's such a pipe dream. It's absolutely unrealistic to think that you take that many people and you make them manage AI systems. Not going to happen. And so I don't have the answer to that one. Like, people are way too self-centered, way too greedy, and and just not good in general, to be able to handle the kind of catastrophe that we are hurtling towards at light speed. And everyone has their head in the sand. They're just ignoring it. Like,
Yeah,
they're like, doesn't matter. It's like,
I
well, it
don't
will matter one day, I promise.
I don't know if they're ignoring it entirely so much as they might not even be aware that the meteor is going to come and destroy the
Yeah.
dinosaurs, you know?
They might not even know the problem exists. And the truth is, I do get accused of being the guy, the you know, the guy running around saying the sky is falling. Like, but it is. And I'm very sure that that is true. And the reason I know that is because I have been a part of making the sky fall. Like, I'm building the thing that makes the sky fall, and I've watched it work. Dude, I took an intern, right? This is a brand new guy just out of college, has no experience creating agents. I took an intern and I gave him to a guy with a simple project to replace some salespeople. He had a 300-person sales force. And all they did was deal with inbound leads for a large company in the Midwest. And in 3 weeks, this intern built an agent that replaced all 300 of those employees in one day. All of them gone. And so he went from paying $3 million in payroll to paying $2,500 in inference cost. And he paid me, 25 grand to build the system. And and all those people no longer have jobs. And so I've done that enough times that I know it's coming. And I think people should pull their heads out of the sand and start paying attention. And if you do know about it, you should be telling someone who can do something about it. Like, I can't do anything about it. You can't really do anything about it. Like, I figured the most I can do about it is hop on podcasts like this and talk about it, because awareness is probably the max extent of what I'm going to be able to do. Is hopefully people hear this, someone who matters, and they go tell somebody else who matters. And then those people, and there's other people like the guys at Anthropic, they're blowing the whistle. Like, they're saying, hey, this is going to be a huge problem. Like, there's a lot of big people in the space who are saying stuff. But
They just
unfortunately,
understand they don't know what they don't know, so,
yeah,
they're just
yeah,
gonna get impacted. It's gonna hit them from left field, and
yeah. And the world's pretty resilient. Human beings are resilient. Like, we will figure it out because we have to. But I can tell you this, I have a couple of kids that are getting to that age where they're going to go out into the workforce. And I told them, don't do knowledge work. Like, go be a plumber, go be an electrician, go be a welder, like, go do something that's going to take a while for AI to replace, because robotics, we still have at least another 10 years, 15 years. So, go do something else. if you want to make a living. Because if you do what I do for a living, there's going to be no need for me. I could, dude, I'm going to be completely 100% irrelevant in 2 years. What I do, a CEO of a company, like decision making, putting all the pieces together, figuring out strategy, how to create value. You think a human will do that? Absolutely not. Like, I just couldn't compete with the things that I'm currently creating, and I know that. Sam Altman came out just the other day and said the same thing. He's like, I won't have this job forever. There will be a day very soon when an AI will do my job way better than me, and I believe that's coming. And so knowledge work is not the thing you want to be in right now. And if you are in it, you need to try to AI proof yourself by learning how to manage these AI systems. But there's not going to be a lot of people that need to be in that process, right? Because how many times does James Bond show up and the bad guy's not the bad guy? Like it doesn't happen very often. And that's the only time a human's needed in the process. And so, you can become one of those people, learn to communicate with these machines and work with them. And you can be that person. You'll still have a job, but you're going to have to be that person if you want a job.
There's I was talking to a friend earlier today, and I got pretty. I don't want to give the adjective bleak, but I was very point blank and frank with them, and they said this isn't a TED talk, this is a dead talk. So, I even though we're kind of stating things for what they are, I think we already did our part in this podcast, just showcasing the capabilities and the impact. And Jesse, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here in the AI Digest. And I want to have a part two and look at psychosocial development, cultural development of
Oh man.
these
Yeah,
AI companions.
we should there's like 4 hours of stuff that people just need to know. That's dude. Oh yeah, I didn't ever say this on the podcast. That's why I'm writing a book. Like there's a bunch of stuff that I think that people just need to know, said in plain language, without any of the hype, without any of the like, please invest in my company and doom and gloom, the world's ending. Like just hear the facts, make your own decision about what this looks like. That's why I'm where I'm at is because I've been paying attention to this technology for 10 years and been really in it for the last 3 or 4. And so like I've come to conclusions that are like, man, we really ought to be paying attention to what's going on. And anybody who's spent a significant amount of time in this space is saying the exact same thing that I am, either behind closed doors or in public. And so I think the world needs to know more. And the truth is, there's also an amazing opportunity for business owners to compete against the masses. Like, like when could you go and compete with 100-person sales team for $1,000 a month?
It's
Like when
insane.
could you do that? You can't. You could never do that, but you can today. When could you go get accountants and lawyers and all these people on your team doing work for you? To like it just has never existed before, and there's so many people too that are like, nah. It's like really,
I don't think we're fully 100% there, but I know we are getting inching closer and closer and closer and closer. So I
Yeah.
do hear, the weight of your words I feel them.
Yeah, me too. But dude, thanks for having me on, man. This was fun. Enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. And everybody that's watching, thank you at home. And yeah, stay tuned for the book release. What's the name of the book, Jess?
Haven't given it a title yet. So yeah, who knows? For the
All,
2 people that'll go read it, my
all the more
mom and
reason,
someone else.
all the more reason to follow Jesse when he does drop the book. Stay tuned.